Yeah, I'm like,
He's on via Zoom. So he should be able to hear us.
Tyler, do we have any other chairs? I don't know how many more we fit. So if you will help me with that. Now, I think that as we interact yes, we have all of that. Yeah, we're not gonna. Yeah. We're gonna make it part of the record.
Depending on how you want your status.
Find out, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Release the handle. We've got a full house tonight, so if we would be so kind as if we have some ladies that would like to sit, maybe we give up some of our seats if we need to, or just point out where there's some vacant ones, okay? We still have a few more coming in. Once it's full if we need to. And then if you'll grab, there's two over here. I think we got everyone. Joe, how are you? Great. Yeah. I'm right now.
come, you say.
Oh, I was going swimming. I was going swimming again.
So anyway, just. That's very true. That's very true. That's very true. So, but a lot of times.
I should note you're all welcome to stay as long as you'd like, but everything will also be available on YouTube if you want to catch up or hear something you missed, see it again, or you know, if you need to leave early, you can find it there as well.
Okay, we think we got everybody signed in. We're running just a few minutes over, but we will go ahead and start. Once we have our Pledge of Allegiance, call to order our Pledge of Allegiance, let everybody get signed in, especially those who would want to speak, because that's the list we're going to work off of. Then we will get started. Okay.
Hey, where are those shoes?
There's one chair right here.
I'd like to welcome everybody out, and I appreciate you coming out. I hope we can have a great discussion tonight and meetings for the various things that are on the agenda. I would like to introduce our Planning Commission members. On my far right, we have Shelley Nazer. To my left right is Brian Marvel, who's our vice chair. Myself is Michael Fortune. I'm the chairman for the Planning Commission. To my left is Bob Hinkie, member of the Planning Commission, who is a alternate tonight. May become a voting member, but we just have to see. Next to him, we have Bob Washburn. Bob Washburn, and is one of the alternates, but it will be voting tonight. We have a member that's typically sitting right next to me, Tyler Riggs, who is out ill tonight. Came down deathly ill. So if anybody knows him, please wish him well and a fast recovery. And then at the end, we have Joe Chambers, who will keep us all on the legal straight and narrow. So I thank you. And that's who we have for our commission. We have Tyler over here that's taking care of our activities, screens, and also because of the amount of time that is allotted, we'll be limited on the amount of time that we can speak. If you've been to these before, I do my best to try to get everybody in, but we have to keep it within reason as well. So that's kind of where we are. And then we have Scarlett, that is the brains of the operations for Providence City. So I'd invite you all to stand with us as we go and participate in the Pledge of Allegiance, if you would. Like that, Bob Washburn, to please lead.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. What we're going to start off with is our review of the approval of the minutes from our last meeting of March 22nd. So I would ask the commission members if everybody's had a chance to review it, or if they found anything that needs to be addressed.
I just found one small typo, line 112, it's just a misspelling of Park Street.
Okay.
I've got line 58. I think it's supposed to be conclusions of law instead of conclusions of law. And line 109, The word this should be there.
You got those, Tyler?
Okay.
Did we keep a chair for Scarlett?
She's back
Are
in.
you okay back there? Behind the plant? Had I known that was acceptable? And of course. Anyway. All right. Let me get to this. So do we think we've got every corrections, anything that need to be added or adjusted in our minutes? If we got that all taken care of, I would entertain a motion to accept our minutes
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes
with the corrections.
with suggested corrections.
I have a motion to accept by Shelley Nazer. Do I have a second? I have a second by Bob Washburn. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. What we have at this time is what we consider our standard public comments, where that's in general topics. I would imagine the majority of you are here for one, if not two, of the public hearing items. But if somebody has a comment that they would like to make regarding any other aspect of the situation with the city, this would be the opportunity.
I object.
Okay, and why do you object?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, you're allowed 2 objections. One more and you're out of here. Okay. Is there another sheet over there? We have it here. I need these 2. So if you know, maybe just a sheet of paper. She's got them there in the pen. Okay. Tyler, did we have any comments come in relating to anything in general or just the ones we have?
Mhm.
Okay. With that in mind, we are going to begin. I would like to, and that may, yeah, so then I'll have, so we're going to take the comments and we need to do. Okay. Before we start our public hearing, I wanted to take this opportunity because we've had a few of these meetings before, and we've had comments come in via mail and text messages and phone calls. We've had groups come to speak their opinion and so forth. We've had some issues before. I want to just make sure that the decorum and the civility is understood before we get too far. I want to share with you something that happened at one of our meetings from May 25th last year. It was about the rezoning of a piece of property for multifamily. The majority of the comments that were made and some of the text that was entered, because after each meeting I provide a report to the city council. And I said the major concerns of the citizens who were present are as follows. These comments that I'm going to read to you now were made at that meeting or were contained in the emails that were submitted. A desire for no more high-density housing in Providence because those people bring crime, traffic, gangs, overcrowding in our schools, voyeurism, odors from tenants, unsightly to look at, void of green space. You can hear your neighbors' TVs, arguments, parties, etc. They're cheaply made, low quality, unsafe appliances. Stairs are too steep, inadequate number of emergency responders, too noisy, no place for children to play, highway is too dangerous for kids to ride their bikes, unsightly to look at, not a family-friendly place, water shortages, pollution, lures first-time homebuyers into purchases without a clear understanding, blocks my view of the mountains and lowers my property. What I want us to do tonight if you make a comment in regards to this, and you can certainly share your opinions. That's what this is for the Planning Commission, who are your peers. We are appointed from different parts of the city. We live here. We want to hear and give you an opportunity to voice your opinions. The thing about it is, I want you to be civil. This was talked about people in some of the townhouses. And one of the things that bothered me about it is I went and talked to those people. I went and talked to over 100 of those people in those townhomes. They're not filthy. They're not any of those things that were presented. We have an individual that serves on the Planning Commission that lives in a townhouse home. I'm wondering how many of us ever began our lives in an apartment and maybe moved up to a townhome. And now we have nice homes. So as you shake your heads, as you think about that, I want you to just be sure that you provide clarified factual information. I know you have a lot of concerns and questions, but if you make a claim, I would like you to present what you base it upon. I think that's how we're going to have a good discussion about what's proposed tonight. So with that being said, the other couple of things I wanted us to keep in mind is that as the Planning Commission, we are not the legislative body. We make recommendations. That's all we do to the City Council. The City Council will have the final say whether the property is annexed, whether the zoning that's requested is granted, whether we propose we recommend annexation with a different zoning. They are the ones who will ultimately make that decision. Okay? Our job is to handle the public hearings and to see if we can maintain the standards and the goals that the city has. I want everybody to be aware that on our master plan that was done a few years ago, this property was showed as multifamily, okay, which allows for
Mixed use.
33 units per acre. Okay, the zones being requested are much less than that, but I want you to understand, from all the hearings that were done back then, and all of that presented to the public, to the citizens. I wasn't here at that time, but that's what they designated that to be. So now it's come an opportunity to be taken under consideration for annexation, which brings it then because of the request of zoning that's being asked for. So that's where we're at. So now, with that being said, I think those are those things. I think everybody's fine. I just want us to keep it civil. Now we have to look at how many people we have that would like to speak. From those that signed up, I have 13. By rules, we are allotted a certain amount of time. So Tyler is going to time us as we come up here. Now, in the past, I've tried to give everybody an opportunity to speak that wanted to. I'm going to try to do that as well, but I must keep in line with the regulations and rules of the meeting as best I can. So we're going to try to get all 13 people in that had something to say. I'd like you to keep your comments to 2 to 3 minutes if possible. If we interject and ask some questions, then I'd ask Tyler to kind of keep that in mind, that if we ask you things, we're taking some of your 2 to 3 minutes to allow that to be answered and to move forward. So that's what we're here for. We're going to listen and we're going to ask some questions, and then we'll go to that point, and then we will close off the public hearing for this particular item and move to our second. So with that being said, I have Mary Ellen Pace. If you would like to come up, and what you need to do is come up to the microphone, state your name, and then go ahead with your time. Well, give me just a minute. I forgot to. Yeah. Let me bring up the item number 1. The Providence City Planning Commission will take comments and questions regarding a request to zone parcel 02-117-0022 to RM12 and R112 Parcel is currently being considered for annexation by the Providence City Council. The public hearing for the actual annexation of parcel 02-117-0022 will be before the City Council in May. So, despite what comes from this meeting, I would recommend that that's where the vote will take place by the council has the authority to make those final decisions. So with that, Sister Mary Pace, if you would be so kind as to come up. Thank you.
I'm Mary Ellen Pace, and I live up on the bench, but I care about all of Providence and hoping to, it's developed in the best interest of all of the residents. And so I would suggest that this property be only single-family homes. The reason being, I'll just emphasize one point, is that the roads that go in and out of there are pretty narrow. They're designed for single-family residents, and the increased traffic from multifamily would be too much and make the neighborhood that's already there unsafe, as it is already single-family homes, and multifamily dwellings would bring in a lot more traffic and congestion that those roads won't hold up for.
Do you have anything else you wanted to share? I don't know if everybody's had a chance to see it. It's been on Facebook, it's been distributed, but there is a map that shows what is preliminarily something. It's not all that we're considering is what the zone is. But this is out there and everybody's seen it, okay? And so, okay. So, and I want to show this one as well. I think everybody has seen this too. This is the county map. This is the parcel that we're talking about and dealing with. This is the planned road extension by the county, okay? So, none of that is set in concrete, but that's typically what is done. Okay, we're going to move on now to Alan. Is it Miller? Alan Miller? Yeah. Thank you.
I read online that sometimes it's helpful for the guy taking notes to just give him my written comments.
Okay.
And then if you each want this map, you didn't see it in the one that you shared. It might take a minute longer than 3 minutes, but my wife. Oh,
Yep.
Alan Miller. I live at 375 West, 5 minutes south of Providence, just around the corner. But I'll try to be brief. So I'm deeply concerned that granting the application to annex the parcel with zones RM12 and R112 will negatively impact the quality of life for current residents and withhold the opportunity for future families that will live on the parcel to live in an amazing neighborhood. I hope the commission will only allow the parcel to be annexed with R112 single-family homes that match the feel of the surrounding neighborhood so that future residents will be able to enjoy the unique identity and character of Providence. We should preserve an amazing neighborhood for future families. When we first looked at our house, several people, friends, realtors, business owners, all knew people who lived in our neighborhood and told us how desirable of a neighborhood it was. When we moved here, we were told things by neighbors that this has the feel of a 1970s neighborhood, where your kids play outside all day and come home late and you know they are safe. With the spring weather, our neighborhood has again come alive and we're excited for another summer in this exceptional area. The guiding principles from the city's master plan are to maintain individual community identity with compact development focused inwards towards city centers and buffering community boundaries with agrarian and natural land. This parcel is to the city's southern border and should maintain this buffer while the city should look to add higher density development closer to the center. The proposal doesn't fit the design of the city. As you can see with what I've shared, all other areas, I'm sorry I didn't have a color printer, but the shaded areas on the map are all other areas that are designated RM12 in the city of Providence. And they all follow this guiding principle that they are closer to major artery roads with direct access to the highway and are closer to commercial zoning. The parcel also sits directly east of the USU Research Farm, so there will never be a road going west connecting it to the highway. All traffic.
Okay, I need to stop you there.
I do have a quote if you let me share it first.
Let me ask you this question.
Go
If
ahead.
you would, please. I would caution you to say that it never will. Okay, that's one thing. And you're more than welcome to express your quote and stuff now.
So in the minutes from an April 24th, 2019 Planning Commission meeting, quote, Jay Paulson talked to Vice President White at USU about the USU farm. They do not have any plans to change the use of the property. If they did change it, it would be a politically sticky issue. We should act under the impression that it's going to stay the same, end quote.
Okay, let me just share with you that number one, that president is no longer here.
Yes.
We have a new president that's coming. And to say that that property will never be changed or sold is not a valid statement as of 2023. And hey, I'm not saying to you that it is.
That it will,
I'm
yeah.
not saying to you that it's not.
I
I
guess
can't make that statement publicly.
I just wanted on the record that the most recent information that we have from Utah State is that
Was
there
in
will be
2019.
no plans.
Is that right? 2019?
Yeah, 2019 in a planning commission meeting. That,
Just so you know.
that it would be problematic for them to change.
And now,
that
what
area.
may come about is it may be problematic if they don't. But that's a mute point. I just
Yeah.
wanted to share
Yep.
with you that we have to, I want to try to keep it as
Yep.
clear as we can. And I had one other question for you.
Yes.
You mentioned about the shaded areas.
Yes.
R12.
Yep,
Are you
so this
talking
is
the
from
dark
the
shaded
Yeah.
areas?
Yep.
Or just the R12?
R12. Yeah, so that's from the city's website that you can toggle on zones and things like that. So I looked at just the areas that match RM12 zoning and that they're all closer to the highway,
Oh,
closer
for
to
RM12. not just
RM12. No,
Okay.
not R12.
Okay.
RM.
Thank you. I misunderstood.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. The proposal doesn't match the surrounding neighborhoods. All of the surrounding neighborhoods are zoned single-family R112 or R110, and this parcel should match that. While the proposal includes a row of single-family homes to the east, they are turned sideways to maximize the density that would drastically differ from the look and feel of the existing neighborhood, which you showed that in the maps that you have. Some may say that this parcel could act as a buffer to what Millville decides to do to the south, but we should be more concerned about preserving what makes Providence special and setting the tone for future development to the south of Millville. We need to protect the children in this area. Just our block of 10 houses on 500 South has 15 kids under the age of 12. My 4 children are here tonight. The rest of the surrounding neighborhoods are similar demographics. I spoke with a neighbor this week that is already worried about her kids playing outside due to the increased traffic at high speeds with people trying to access the highway via 500 South. The potential layout included in the application would add 88 units and their cars to the existing road. The application states that there are 2 roads from the north and 1 from the south, but 480 West is actually an offshoot of Garden Drive and doesn't have its own outlet. To the south, 700 South actually comes from the east with no quick access to the highway. So while not a fact, I will say it's reasonable to assume that most traffic would come from the north through Garden Drive, which already has additional traffic from the Ballard Springs 55+ subdivision currently under construction. While the city's transportation master plan, which I will point out was developed and open for public comment during the peak of the pandemic, when input was less likely, outlines a plan to extend Garden Drive to the south, making a major collector, documented public input that the plan shows speed concerns in the area. Increased housing density and adding so many more cars to the road will amplify those issues. That I will say from my review of the transportation master plan, while they documented that there were speed concerns just close to Yosemite South, right close to this parcel, there wasn't anything in there that took that concern into account and actually calls for widening the roads and adding additional lanes and bike lanes and things like that. We would be putting the cart before the horse by adding more cars before existing traffic concerns are resolved. Don't let another development get out of control. We've been told by many neighbors that other projects in Providence have resulted in higher densities than initially thought because developers were granted zoning that didn't match the surrounding areas. Now areas like Gateway Drive are full of cars parked on the road just because there isn't enough room on the street, off the street. Sorry.
Okay, let's stop. I gotta stop you there.
Yep.
For just a couple of things, okay,
That's fine.
that we can help everybody here. The majority of cars on the road on Gateway, I would say to you, are the construction workers working on those properties, not necessarily after hours.
They're always there.
Okay, that there is a lot of parking that's been on, that's when I'm out more during the day, so.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
See,
so
that's-
I imagine there's requirements of being able to require off-street parking per unit, right? But most of these townhomes and condominiums have a single parking spot off-street, while most families
they have their
probably
garages,
have.
and there's
Yep.
additional parking. But whatever they have has been to code.
Yeah.
That's one of the things we have to keep in mind.
Yeah.
The other thing.
Well,
I
it's
wanted
the
to-
code, it's still additional cars than what we would like in a
That
neighborhood.
may be. And, I'm sure even in some residential areas, we struggle with that just because of the number of younger kids getting the I wanted to just make sure we're cleared on. You said that we have to watch that the development doesn't get out of control, that they do things that were not approved, is that what you
So
said?
just the idea of that, while, you know, we have a single parcel, and while our 112 matches the surrounding area, we're saying, let's split it rather than go through the process of just subdividing it later when it's already annexed into the city as a single zone, right? Let's split it now. And I mean, the initial proposal already is 90% townhomes with 7 single-family
Right,
homes, right?
right.
It's not a 50-50 split or even
Right.
close.
Yeah.
But the proposal also isn't in concrete. That
Right.
it could be that they decide, well,
Well,
we'll
they
do-
have to specify, which they have.
but it's a
there's
potential layout, right?
well, no, we're not gonna pass a zone that is left vague, that this one little corner could be R12 and 99% of it can be
And that's the,
RM12.
that's
That's not
concern
the
of
case. There
having a
is,
split zone.
give me just a second, if you would, please.
Yeah.
I thought that you had said
I'm nearly
that-
done too. so.
that, anyway, well, I think I got it right. But you're right in where you're going with it. I just want you to understand.
Yep.
That is the zone request. You can see the housing thing.
R112.
Yeah, that's all the R112.
And everything
Yeah,
else
or
is
the
RM.
R12, yeah, and the rest is the other. So that, if it was to be approved, it has to specify the zones and the boundaries of those.
Oh,
zones, Okay? It
So
can't-
in
it's not just
in
saying-
the proposal, it is
Right.
saying that this area,
That's what
whatever
this
the,
is for. That's what this
the
is.
limitations of
Right.
that, it would be R112 for this portion,
That
R12 for the remainder.
Right.
Got it.
So it isn't left vague so that can be changed. That's what it
I
is.
appreciate that.
Okay. Just to clarify for everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think the thing I want to get at is some of the comments that were made and so forth, and all of the emails that were sent in, or messages, text, whatever we got, all those different things. The commission members have had a chance to have those, and they will be made a part of the public record as well and attached to this too. There was a comment made that said that in the past, developers have been given approval for something and then they go and do something different. I specifically went to review all of this, and that has not been the case. They've done what they were approved, and they'll certainly do the max that they can based off the zoning or whatever. But that's something that the city has been really mindful of to not have. And the review that I had with city manager and other staff members and senior staff members and the mayor, that has not been the case, both current and former. So anyway, okay, thank you very much. I know I've stopped you.
Nope,
but I
you're
wanted to
great.
Give a chance.
I appreciate that. I guess I will say, and then finish with my last couple of sentences, that the request is that the parcel be annexed as R112 only and not allow for multifamily housing in the area because of the reasons that I provided, but also because that already would be more dense than what matches the area, what preserves the identity and character of that area of Providence and what makes it special, right?
It's interesting. Thank you very much for your comments. It's interesting to me because a lot of work went into the master plan with a lot of hearings and meetings and people via Zoom and everything else. Even some of the committee members' meetings and things were done via Zoom. I wasn't here for it, but from those who were, I understand there was a lot of input. And it was proposed in the zone would be multifamily, which even higher numbers.
NXT actually, but yeah,
So multi-use for as much as 33 units per acre. So anyway, but that's not, and again, I understand what you're saying, but that's one piece. That's what they did with the plan, and they had the reasons for it. But here's also the goals and ideas of Providence and its community and citizens. And those are the things we want to have that have priority as well.
yeah. And I will say, I think that this process of knowing what's, potentially going to happen with a parcel so close to our neighborhood
Right.
has opened up the opportunity for us to learn about what things were included in the master plan that maybe we should have and would like to see changed. And so we will be pursuing those
Okay.
aspects.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. One of the other things while we're all on it, I wanted to show this as well. I don't know that everybody's seen that or researched it and so forth. But what you have is the parcel in question. You have Millville down below. This parcel down here is within the county and is looked at possibly coming to Providence, maybe going to Millville at some point in time. This is the USU facility that's been there for a long time. And this down here was considered, this is Millville, this is the high school over here. This parcel and this parcel on both sides of the roads was considered for Millville's town center. Okay, where they're looking at, this is where we would have commercial, we would have fast food restaurants, we would have other things like that. We would have townhouses, apartments, things of that nature, okay, and their new city offices at some point. Well, this part here is up for sale now to a developer, okay, for commercial and other zones that may come in, that's something that Millville will deal with. Part of it is the fact that everybody knows we have commercial development is going on here, the corner where the Zions Bank is, and that stuff that's taking place, and a large amount of development going on the other side of the highway. So commercial's going to be coming down here, commercial's coming into here, commercial's coming all around, and then
Those have highway access.
those have highway access, but also keep in mind that other roads are going to be extended. Okay, I'm not in any position to tell you which ones, but with that commercial development, just like where we have the senior housing. Somebody making this theatrical?
I think it's time for somebody else.
Okay, we're getting there. We're getting there. So anyway, that's the road. That road's going to go all the way through. And then there's, 2100 South that is proposed to be developed with this parcel.
I think we all showed up wanting to voice our concern instead of listening to you guys.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Well, that was nice. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I will say, I think that we all now are aware of the proposal beyond just this parcel, and we'll continue to make our voices heard.
All right. Let's move on then. We have Megan Miller.
Mine's only one paragraph.
I'm Megan Miller, I'm his other half. And not on my paragraph, but one thing I would like to mention, you talked a lot about hearings that happened in the past. There's been a lot of turnover since then. We didn't live here then, our next door neighbors didn't live here then, the people across the street didn't live here then. So there are a lot of people that weren't in this area for those hearings that are here now and that will be here for a very long time. So we're trying to maintain what we have found to be so lovely. My major concern in this area is the amount of children that live here. I brought my 4. A lot of our neighbors are here with their kids. A lot of people are here with one person at home watching their kids. I checked the bus routes for this area, just the River Heights Elementary School bus route. And there are 3 full buses from this area alone to the elementary school. That is for children under the age of 12. That's a lot of kids. These same kids ride their bikes in the streets and play night games in the evening. When we moved in, I was surprised to find that my kids would attend River Heights Elementary rather than the closer Providence Elementary. While I am thrilled with River Heights, I love our elementary school. They are bused there because there are so many children in the area that Providence Elementary was at capacity. Adding high-density housing will increase traffic, but it will also increase the load on the elementary schools that are already overcrowded. I am in favor of zoning the parcel single-family R112 only because I want more families to enjoy the safe neighborhood we chose for our family.
Thank you. Okay. Julia Lyman, please.
Hi, Julia Lyman. I live on Garden Drive. I've lived there for 21 years. We were one of the first people that started to build there, and we have been there as neighborhoods have been added to the south. Neighborhoods upon neighborhoods, single family neighborhoods. And we have accepted that, and it has been joyful as these single family neighborhoods have moved in. And we have accepted the traffic that has come with that because it is acceptable. Multifamily housing is not going to be acceptable for these neighborhoods for that one fact.
the traffic. The infrastructure in this neighborhood is not prepared for the amount of traffic that will come with it. Garden Drive will not be able to handle the amount of traffic. And the city is not prepared for other access into multifamily housing. We do not have a plan for it. If we're not having a plan for it, how can we build it? That is my biggest problem with it. Education system is not ready for it. The city is not ready for it. So please do not allow it to be built. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We will move on now to Michelle. Kitchens.
Such a hard word.
No, I just. I have some.
That's part of it.
Have your signature above, go down to yours. So,
So
that's
it's Michelle Kitchens with an S. I live in Providence, new to Providence.
Tell us your name, tell us your English.
Pardon me?
Are you an English teacher?
No. You will soon find out that I am
Great.
not a teacher at all. I am not eloquent or anything. I do stand up though. I do have a quick question. Same. So what is the responsibility of the developers in looking at, I just put down in the roads or schools and all the infrastructure? Do they have any responsibility? Do they offset any of the payment or the bills to redo the roads, to install lights, to do anything? Do they have any responsibility?
There is, with every development, there's a lot of impact fees that are paid. There's transportation, there's streets, water, all types of impact fees and development fees that are paid by the developer.
And does that really balance out? Are they really paying for the changes that they're building? Because like we live right here with all of the new townhomes going behind Judges. I'm just not sure how that's gonna work. We're already crowded. And now we have all of that coming in and out. We're gonna be blocked all the way out to the highway. So I just don't know how much money needs to fix that, and if they're really doing that.
We have a very responsible staff, Providence City staff, do a very good job at managing the money. And one of the things they have to watch very closely are the impact fees. Those impact fees need to be collected to cover costs, because if they don't collect enough, then we end up with not enough to put in infrastructure. Sewer systems, roads,
Schools.
sidewalks, schools are part of the school district. School district, as you
But
notice,
they impact that, so would they have to offset?
the schools,
Property taxes are impacted for the school. And if you. have
And I'm
you-
just asking
yeah,
for clarification.
I would direct you to two things. One is I would direct you to the city manager for as much detail as you'd like about the impact fees, and the breakdown of them. The next, I would direct you to the Cache County School District, that has the planning for additional schools, and all of that is taking place to meet the needs of the growing communities, here in Cache County.
Because right now, I haven't seen that balance. I feel like if Providence has become unbalanced, I feel that the traffic, the higher traffic, I'm not against those style of homes, because like you brought up, we do all start somewhere, and there is a need. I just don't think that need can be met in Providence. I wouldn't mind trying to find another place where it could be met, but we're already kind of maxed out. So I also, in looking at contracts, and when we bought our house, we were told it was single family. So part of my signing my contract to buy and purchase my expensive home was because I knew it was going to be single family home. If I wanted to move somewhere where there's so many townhomes and so many apartments, I would have purchased a home there. But I was told and contracted that it was single family. So for me, I feel it's breach of my contract that now it's going to be open up to other things. So either they can't promise that it's single family and it'll be continue to be single family.
Can I ask you who made that promise?
Multiple agents, real estate agents.
That for that development, this was what was gonna be built. And for that development, that was residential. There is one other piece that I would like to mention. I'll keep it as brief as possible.
But where does it stop? I mean, that's the thing. Where does it stop? Because I feel like that's kind of why we're here. We thought it was single family, but now we're being told, no, it's not anymore. This is this option. So I feel like it keeps changing. No matter how many times we come together and how many times you guys have voiced for us, and we do appreciate that. I feel like it keeps changing. So I just want to know, when is the truth going to be?
Or when will it
The
stop
truth.
changing? It'll probably stop changing
Not
once we
change,
run
not
out.
on that. Single family building is changed, and we accept that.
Yeah.
We embrace that, and that's okay. Multi, we just can't. We're not in a position to be able to receive that.
Let me share with you and direct you to something for everybody for that matter. If everybody looked at the legislative process and actions that took place in 2023, it was started last year, but the state is dictating to cities what they're going to do and how much of it they're going to do. And they have required that we provide plans that say exactly how we're going to increase affordable housing, have affordable housing options, have.
Does that all need to happen right here in Providence?
It's
It
happening,
has
it's
to
to happen
happen in
in
Cache
every,
Valley.
it has to happen in every city
In the state.
in the state. Every city in the state that is considered a, there's a term for it. Millville and River Heights at this point in time do not meet that standard. That's why they've not had to reduce lot sizes or, be required to change some of their subdivision acts. Millville and River Heights are under 5,000 of population. They do not qualify. They will, as they continue to grow, at some point they will. The state has dictated to us. They've dictated to us how it's going to happen. And after this legislative session that took place, if we don't produce it, we have to file reports. If we don't make those changes and show progress that way, the state will come in and change Providence's policies, regulations, subdivision requirements, all of those things. They will come in and do it. On top of that, when we submit our reports, we submitted our report with what our plans were, what we were going to try to project and do. And if we don't show progress in that area, then we will be fined by the state so much money per day. And so, anyway, that's what it is. I would direct you to Snyder.
And I can
Just tell me
relook,
the
it's
names.
fine. I can relook at all that. That is absolutely fine. And I don't want to take any more time. If I could just.
I think it's
have you
Gary
read
Snyder
what-
and
what
Chris
she
Wilson.
had shared.
Casey Snyder and Chris Wilson.
I'll
but-
look at that.
That's exactly where we're at. And it isn't just multifamily. It's smaller homes. So that's where I would direct you, and I direct you to look
Well,
at
and
that.
my point is simply, and you could put this in caps on your minute, all caps, huge font. I really am against multifamily. I don't feel that we can sustain it at all.
Thank you very much. Daniel Kitchens, please. Did you?
It's not about us, you are in store.
Daniel Kitchens, for the record. Love that guy, let me just up here. But anyway, I didn't think I had marked that I want to say anything, but I will absolutely vote. I would motion to keep it R112, simply for the density of the area.
Right.
That's it.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to Robert Clark.
First of all, I didn't realize I signed in that much.
That's your signature.
Yeah, well, I
Or your
wife
wife's.
too, so be good now. Robert Clark, and I live at 590 South, 380 West in Providence, Utah, which is just 5 all away from what's coming in. I'm against it for a multitude of reasons and everything that you've already discussed. So I'm not going to go into details on that. I'm just strictly, I want it to be single family, low houses, so I can still see up over the roof a little bit when that beautiful sunset comes in. I just love to do that way. And I do have one question for you. You mentioned on the west side that land that's a ranch right now or a big farmland. When I was with the Soil Conservation Service, we worked with them to take care of that land. That land is signed over onto a thing where he died. That land cannot be taken away from the public where it is now. It's never supposed to have this stuff on it.
The west side of the highway.
Yes. So I want to just correct that unless you know something that I don't know. This was, what, 8 years ago or so. But that was,
Are you talking about the Alder Farm?
yeah.
Are you talking about something different from that?
Yeah.
Furman.
Final out. We worked on it, and when I left the Soil Conservation Service, in fact, when I got back, I was asking about it because I worked with the guy quite regularly every day. In fact, he was on the commission just like you was and everything. And that was his goal. And the kids, I guess, have it now. But the way it is, as long as they've got it, it cannot be changed to commercial at all.
That may be farther south than what I was focused on the Alder Farm.
Yeah, it could go in right off the edge of the high school.
Yeah.
Across the road there.
That's
And that
farther south.
proceeds on down to almost 300 south. I don't know how far down it really goes because it goes right behind and comes over.
That's Millville, and then you get into Newly and a little bit of Louisville.
No, it's,
Joe
No.
Furman's property.
okay.
Okay.
There's something else, I can't remember. Getting old.
That's all right.
And one thing I'll also note, if you get up here, you have something you forgot to say, you have something you still need to say, send us an email. That'll go on the minutes, it'll go to the city council, so you can get everything out that you want to say.
I just remembered. Okay. I'm gonna take another couple of minutes here maybe, but, I've lived in Cass County probably a little over maybe 20 years. But I lived 10 of them in, Mendon. And I was on their planning and zoning board. And that was a tough board. It really was. Because it was, if you're not a hometown person and don't have a relative who wants to buy land there, they're rejected. I fought that. And of course, after I decided I couldn't do any more and I had to move other places and come on back, you see subdivisions down there. And that's the best thing I've seen is they finally let that go. So I don't want the city to get in a point where that you're all tied down by old feelings and everything. We know things have got to change. We've got to change too. But I'm against it because they've just said all the reasons. There's no reason in me repeating them again, and I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael. Next, I have Judith Clark. He did, but you can let.
Yeah, no, I signed her up.
So you're rescinding your request? Okay, let's move along. The next individual I have is Max Johnson. Is that right, Max Johnson? Max and Jean Johnson.
So I don't want to sound like a broken record, because I think
State your name.
Max Johnson, Providence. We've lived in the area 5 years now, going on 6. And we moved here because of the neighborhood. And like some of the other folks, we were told this area was single-family dwelling, and I'd like it to stay that way. Just maintain that zoning status. I'm concerned about the amount of traffic that will be going down our street and the street to the west of us. It's going to be a Indy 500. So when you add more housing and especially the multifamily dwellings, that means more and more cars and vehicles. And if the plan is to continue the road out to the high school, it's going to be a mess. So I'm also concerned about what this move going with multifamily housing is going to do to our property values. I can't see that will be beneficial to us that have a huge investment in our homes. That's why we moved here. So thank you.
Thank you, Brother Johnson. Does your wife want to speak?
No.
She said no.
Okay. All right. Okay. Holly Sims? Is there a Holly Sims? Sims? Is there a Holly?
There's Holly Lewis.
Holly Lewis.
Okay, do you want to talk?
And I want to say,
Your name?
Holly Lewis, I live in Providence, and I understand you want to censor it in some ways. You mentioned that in the beginning, and I don't want to be censored because I want to be able to speak my mind and say what I feel. And we live in America, where we shouldn't be censored.
I wanted to be civil.
Okay, I understand that. First of all, my main concern is the children. On our street alone, which is 480 West, there's 38 kids on my street. There are kids, over 100 children under the age of 12 within a 1 mile radius, several with special needs. There would be increased traffic. I'm not going to go into all that, but I did reach out to 7 property appraisers this past week, and I asked them to come over and look at the area and give me their opinion, showed them the plan that we have all had, that you showed us multiple times, and asked them what their thoughts were. And they said it would definitely decrease your property value. So I heard you mention that people were afraid of that, but that's not true. They're saying it is true.
I didn't say it wasn't true.
Okay, well, they're saying it would per the guidelines that they're given. Zoning it, I want it to be zoned the R112 single only because it is, the other zone is inconsistent to our surrounding areas. And I understand now that you've mentioned that we're being dictated by the state, I'm willing to go further. I'm willing to go further up to the state. We've got plenty of open land and plenty of open space, but they're trying to cram everyone in with their stinking plans into small areas. Why?
Well, I would address that to Casey Snyder and Chris Wilson.
Yeah,
That's where that would go, from the state. It is statewide.
Yeah, I get it, but we don't live in a dictatorship from what I understand. We live in the United States of America. We're supposed to be able to go and voice and do the legislative process.
But the state does have that authority, just so you understand.
I understand, and I'm willing to consider getting petitions going or whatever I need to do to, do this. It's concerning because it just seems like we've got all these developers coming in, and yeah, I'd like to invest in something to make a lot of money and be able to go golf and do whatever I want to do, and live freely. And who cares because I destroyed someone's neighborhood? Everybody wants that dream, right? Well, actually, I wouldn't want to do that, but I'm just saying that's my opinion, and I'm totally against it.
I appreciate it, Holly. Thank you very much. I will also say that we are trying to get Casey Snyder and Chris Wilson to come for a study issue as well as to address some of these things.
Yeah, I'd like to see some studies that show that it's not going to decrease our property value. And last time, and maybe I'm hearing wrong, but I was told that when we came here last time, and there was a guy that did talk about voyeurism.
Right.
I used to live in California in small areas, and there was a higher crime rate. And the guy that spoke on it, he said it very eloquently and from a professional point of view, and he knows all this data, and he didn't say it in a negative comment the way it was presented. He has the facts. He understands this. He's a very intellectual man. And I'm just saying
I believe
that,
he might even be here. I'm not sure.
I haven't seen him. And I just want to say, it feels like you guys are all for it. I heard that you guys went and presented to go for it. Obviously, it didn't get as big as they wanted it to, but I'm
not sure what you mean by that.
they,
That we
they-
went and presented?
Well, you know how last time you explained to us, we give you your opinions, you give the opinion, you present your recommendations, but
Right.
your recommendation was to move forward, even though there was a lot of opposition.
That may be. That may be. We have an obligation to look at it, to see those types of things. And then
Don't you have an obligation to serve the people as well?
we have to find a balance there.
Our obligation is to serve at the behest of the mayor. Okay, mayor is voted in, and he's assigned those of us here on the commission.
So who votes for you guys?
We're not
We
voting
don't.
for it. We are
No.
appointed.
You're
We're asked to come and serve.
Hold it.
Yes,
I
hold it.
don't know
Give me
what,
just-
I don't know what I supposedly attended and voted for, because I certainly have not. I have been, if you take a look at my votes, I have listened to the public, and I have followed,
I didn't mean to prove you all wrong.
well, you have,
I'm sorry.
and I take umbrage to it. Because I don't know what you're talking about, that we went to some presentation and,
No, it was a meeting here that we went to, and it was for the land over across from Zion, and they wanted to put a lot more, places, and ended up being one.
okay, let me make sure you understand, okay? We don't make the ordinances, the city council does. When a project comes to us, if it meets the criteria of the ordinance, we don't have a lot of discretion to do anything else other than prove it. If you want those ordinance changes, if you've got cars in your neighborhood, too many cars, then go to the legislative body, the city council, and get them to change the ordinance. Now, you have the right to propose an ordinance.
Oh, that's great. I didn't know that.
You can present an ordinance. It comes to this body first. We have a public hearing, and then we vote on whether to recommend to adopt the ordinance or not. Irrespective of how we vote on it, the city council has carte blanche authority to overrule our recommendation and do whatever they want.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for sharing that information with me. And again, I apologize for lumping you all in together.
No, I just wanted to make it clear so everybody understood the process.
Thank you.
One of the other things I wanted Holly just to respond, and I invite anybody that would like to contact the city manager, Ryan Snow. I have met with him. I have reviewed the crime information, specifically back when we had Visionary and all the activity going on over here and all the things that were said about it as we move forward with some of the others. There is not the crime. There is not an increase in crime from that area. You can go and meet with him because we get reported of every call that comes in is reported, and they're plotted, and we can look at it, we can identify what the call is, all of that. I gotta clarify. I don't see who the people were, no names, nothing like that. Ryan does as a city manager. But I can tell you, there is not an increase of crimes. The place in Providence where there is more issues is another apartment complex farther north,
Okay.
but not here.
Yeah, I don't know if he was specifically talking about
Yeah.
that one. I think
Yeah.
when he used his example
Yeah.
was high capacity area.
Yeah. But we're not seeing that
Yeah.
here. That's all I wanted to say. And if somebody wants to see it for themselves, because that's the thing to me, when everybody said we have these other people in these townhouses here, not saying you did, okay? I went and I spoke with a lot of them. Some of them have moved from those townhouses into the senior housing development. So I didn't see that. And I came and I went and looked at the crime. I went and talked to the school board people because that's part of what our responsibility is. And not everybody is at the perfect spot we would like them to be, but I think it's important to know that. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay. Heather Blotter.
My name is Heather Blotter. I live on Garden Drive where this affects. I've lived there for over 20 years. When we built our house there, we were told this road where we now have, where all the apartments, I can't remember what it's called, that was coming. I was like, oh, good, my kids can get to Spring Creek instead of go up and around. Just so you know, I know roads are planned to come in. That took over 15 years of us living here before that road came in. So if it takes another 15 years to get another access to these high density, we're past our problem. It was a problem with my kids young, and it is a great neighborhood, and that is why I haven't moved, is because it is an amazing place to live. I also own apartments in Logan. I understand the absolute need for affordable housing. We have had our apartments in our family for 40, 50 years. We are one of the cheapest in the university because we are older, they have been owned, and we want to provide something for kids that are going to school and trying to get through. So I understand that need. My concern and problem is I haven't denied, I haven't fought any of these other ones because I understand the need. But the problem is they are all concentrated in my neighborhood where it affects me. I would like to see more affordable housing. I would like to see it up by where these people live. There's no townhomes or apartments where these developers live. It's us middle class who are really affected. The people that are higher class, they get hurt because they have the money. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. The lower class, we want to help, and so we help them. The middle class kind of just gets shoved under the mat. And I'm really tired of us, our voices not being heard. And I also have worked in River Heights Elementary for the last 10 years. And the last couple of years, we have seen a huge turnover rate. And I know some of you work in the schools, you see how that affects. It affects the teacher, it affects the classroom, it affects me as a reading aide. And it hurts because you love these kids, you want to help them, and you get them for a few months, and then they leave because of the high density living. It does have an impact. I'm for them building affordable housing, but it's just too much concentrated in our 1 mile area. It needs to be somewhere else, and I would support family housing only. So that's my concern.
Thank you very much. Okay, next we have Chalise Carlson.
Good job, Michael. You know my name. Read it despite the funky spelling. Thank you. I just say thank you for being here. I'm sorry that this is hard, and I wouldn't want to be on your side of the table. It's not fun for me to sit back there. Can't believe that the job that you're doing. So thank you. It's a thankless job, and people only show up when they're upset, and I'm sorry. I've been to other meetings to try to be more informed in the past, and usually I'm the only one here, and the hard work that you do is really not seen. So I appreciate the efforts that you do make. So maybe just a different vein. Obviously, I have some similar thoughts that have already been spoken, but I do think that this parcel that we're talking about today is unique because it does butt up against the USU's Evans Research Farm. All of these other developments have been in place in the past. I know there's a lot of consideration and time and thought gone into the master plan for Providence City. I recognize that, and in my efforts to become more informed and as a citizen in that process the last few years, I understand that a lot of the thought behind that is to be able to have a gradual increase and transition area from commercial to residential land, which makes a lot of sense. It does. I understand that there needs to be increased affordable housing. It's a definite need. But because of the uniqueness of that research farm, this parcel kind of doesn't really fit the other projects that have gone on in the past. I had the opportunity, I called USC this morning and talked to, his name is Eric Galloway. So he's the manager over multiple research farms for Utah State, including the Evans Research Farm. And he kind of informed me a little bit more about what that farm does and kind of the uniqueness
it is apart from other research farms owned by Utah State. So just kind of for context, that land was originally purchased in 1937 with money granted from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. So it was purchased by Utah State, but that money was granted from the USDA. Because of that, the majority of the research done on that farm is the USDA's research, just conducted by USU employees. USU only has a few small projects taking up part of that land. Eric Galloway, again, the manager there, informed me that they have a long-standing purchase agreement with the USDA, and a few years ago, USU wanted to kind of buy them out and make it available for them to run their own research freely. And the USDA denied that request and is unwilling to let go of the land and the research that's conducted there because it's so long-standing, because they find value in having a long duration of research. Most of the research that is done there is on grasses and hybrid plants, and they have kind of a worldwide collection that has taken a long time to put together. So for them, it was seen valuable. Eric told me again that they renew their lease, and it's either, he couldn't remember, it's either a 30 or 40-year term lease, and they renewed it about 3 years ago. So from my understanding, obviously you cannot predict the future. Obviously things change. But from the conversation I had with him, we can assume that most likely that land is going to stay the way it is, especially because USU really doesn't have a lot of jurisdiction in it. It's the USDA land that they control and the research that they're doing there. So because of that, and as Heather mentioned, I think for me, I understand that there needs to be change in affordable housing, but the density and the road and the traffic is a major concern. When you look at the map that's presented, you know, you have projected land, projected roads extending to the south or to the west, but because of that research firm, it doesn't really make it possible for a road to be put there anytime soon. And those things take time. And what are we supposed to do in the meantime, the 15-year interim? And there are a lot of children, there are a lot of bus stops. There's not an easy access right now to public transportation. So if those houses were built and people needed access to public transportation, it's not easily there right now. Doesn't mean that can't change, but I just think that because of the uniqueness of the location, maybe additional consideration should be made for changing it to better match the surroundings that are there, especially because of the private road also that's to the south, which is technically Millville. I just see a lot of barriers and blockages that are really outside Providence City control to be able to help expand and fix the major issue, which is traffic. And so that's just something to consider. Obviously I support annexation and would support single family housing because I think that it could help, you know, you could have reasonable traffic and that the infrastructure in place would be able to maintain that. I also just want to end, I noticed in the Providence City newsletter this last month, they listed many of the ventures and things that Providence City has done in this past year, kind of recapping the progress that's been made. And I have noticed there's been a lot of progress and a lot of work done. But I thought it was interesting. They listed that they are listening to the citizens of Providence better. So I hope that these meetings are civil and they can be a conversation, because as citizens, I do understand that there's city ordinances and state requirements, but I would hope that those on the city council and you on the board would be able to take listening to the citizens as the highest priority over, you know, state broad sweeping laws, which obviously are important and there for a reason. But sometimes the right thing for a city isn't always the right thing for every city in the state, and it's not always the right thing for every section of the city. So I hope that would be considered. Thank you.
Thank you. I would just remind you that the state can dictate to us. So again, that's where our representatives, Casey Snyder, Chris Wilson, all of that. It isn't just Providence that's getting that directed, okay?
Thank you for your in-depth research.
Yep. Absolutely. Okay, next we have Dan Mazzaros.
Dan Mazzaros, no fancy notes, just expository oration from the heart. I was the first resident of the new 480 West single family home. Moved from Lehigh, which compared to Providence seems like a dystopian hellscape. Super grateful to be here, and bought that home there because of what I had heard about the neighborhood. I heard the rumors of this legendary Halloween party where the kids are just roaming the streets and everybody's in the cul-de-sac. And then all of the things that I had heard from the individuals turned out to be very true. Couple thoughts that I have about, I stand with, I think, the majority of the individuals here in wanting this to be single family and single family only for a few reasons. Affordable housing is important, but at the same time, a $300,000 townhome at a 6% interest rate, which puts their mortgage at around $3,000, does not sound super affordable. It sounds more opportunistic by the investor's part. And to that point, one of the challenges that I understand the City Council and Cache Valley in general faces is that we're the unfortunate benefactors of all of Utah's growth. Lehigh, Salt Lake City, all of these different places that have attracted billion-dollar companies and massive developments, and tons of people moving here have caused housing prices to inflate. Cache Valley has not seen a similar business-like growth. And therefore, I would recommend to, however we do this, whether it's the citizens who need to do this or our city council members, to go up to the state and propose that these dictations about affordable housing should not apply mano a mano, orange and orange, apple to apple of Salt Lake to Cache Valley. We're different. Our valley is different. We have not grown from a business perspective the same way that those places have looked. We look at affordable housing through single variable data, and that one data point is supply. Well, what about median income in our valley? That's an issue that we face. Has median income gone up at all as these housing prices? What are we doing as a city to get new businesses, new opportunities here? And so I just don't like looking at the problem through the lens of one variable, which is we just need to increase the supply of housing, and that's going to be the magic wand that makes it affordable all of a sudden. I don't think that's going to happen. To the point of crime rate, I don't have any data here. This is pure shooting from the hip, so I apologize, Brother Fortune. I understand that there's probably no recordable increase in crime rate based off of this new development that's gone in. I imagine that crime rate is detected by 911 calls, actual citations, or I'm sure that's how they track the crime rate. So the only thing that we have to go off of is anecdotal. What is happening? What changes have happened within our schools? The individuals are here. I mean, I grew up in downtown Ogden. I was what that gentleman might have referred to as those people. I was a nefarious teenager, doing all the things. I had the cops called on me a few times, sure, but I never once myself contributed to that crime rate itself. And so what I would suggest to the council as well is, even though there might not be crime on paper, I would go talk to the parents of those who are putting those kids on the school buses and having their kids in this neighborhood, talk to you about the difference between before and after to get those anecdotal stories of what's not actually data. Let's see, do I have any other thoughts? That's all my thoughts for now. I am super pro single family housing in that new development. Love this town, love this city, and would love, because if there's one thing I've learned from this experience here tonight, is that there's an interesting dichotomy, that the people who we voice our opinions to aren't necessarily incentivized the same way as the city council. The city council is incentivized to listen to us, because if they don't, then we don't vote for them and we campaign for whoever they're running against. And it seems like that even goes up to the state level, where the state isn't necessarily incentivized to listen to us because they're just doing things.
So they're elected too. You're
Right.
You're
Exactly. Exactly. So what I would ask is for this council here to recommend against this, because it seems like you right here are our only chance for our voices to be heard to the people who we actually elect.
Well, you can attend the city council meeting. Your time is possibly much more limited than just the number of people that they will accept, but they review this. They're not watching now. They do watch it so that they're prepared. So anyway,
Great.
But it is for that purpose. Okay.
Great. I conclude.
Thank you. All right.
Do you mind if I chime in on that, just because you brought it up a couple of times?
We're running out of time.
Give me
Because we don't
yeah.
have lots of time. Yeah.
We're gonna go to our last speaker. Is your comment short?
Yeah.
Okay, 15 seconds, if you guys please.
Okay, that's really short. Okay,
You're
Alan Miller again. I believe Councilman Demeter, correct, from the city council. So I and several of us attended the city council meeting in which the annexation proposal came forward, and they did a lot of hedging, no offense, but of saying, well, we need to move forward so that we can research whether or not this is something we want to do, because if we just say no, then Millville will take it, right? And so they told us, Councilman Nebeker and a couple others individually that I talked to after the meeting, that get your neighbors to the planning commission meeting and make sure they know what you want, because they will make a recommendation and they have the power to recommend to us,
Yes.
R112 single family housing.
Just remember, we have the power to recommend it. They have the
Yeah.
power to override it.
And that's fine, but
I
we,
appreciate it.
but I don't want you to pass the buck to them to say, well, it's up to the city council, right? Because they do want.
We're just like you, we're citizens.
No, I know, these two live like within a couple blocks of me, like, I get it.
All right. Just like Jeff Horsborough. We have 3 people left, Jeff and 2 others.
All right, Jeff Horsborough, 580 Garden Drive. I'll try and be brief because I think a lot of what I would have said has already been brought out today. But first of all, thank you for your service. I'm personally not supportive of the proposed rezone. I am supportive of annexation, and I would propose that it would be entirely acceptable based on what people have said today to make the zoning consistent with the 2 roads that are going to enter the property from the north, which is Garden Drive and 580 West. 480 West. And I say that for a couple of reasons. One is that there's just too many unknowns here. Like, if this rezone is accepted, we know what will go forward, and we know that the developer will develop, and we know that what will happen. We don't know if 700 South will ever be resolved. We don't know if Utah State University will ever let us do anything different than what's already there. We don't know what Millville is going to do with commercial development. And so I would say those unknowns, as others have said, could take 15 or 20 years to resolve, whereas if this decision is made now, it's going to happen. So I would also, say that that's a rezone is not consistent with the area surrounding. We've already sort of established that. But I have a question. What sort of studies would be done before something like this would be approved? Would there be traffic studies? Would there be studies to determine whether the sewerage is available, needs to be redone, has capacity to carry? Like, are there plan scouty?
Here's kind of the steps, and you guys break me if I'm wrong. It comes in, as if the parcel is zoned a certain way, and that's the way they want to develop it, and it doesn't need a rezone, doesn't need annexation, then they submit their concept plans and move forward. It comes to the planning commission to look at it, and then to the city council. If it's something that needs a rezone, then it comes to us. If it needs annexation, it goes to the city council. And then as those plans begin to develop, that's where those studies are done. The engineers look at it, the fire marshal looks at it, the water conservative group, all of those things get looked at. So if it's done prior to that, unless there is flood zones, where it requires the government to do some things, that's kind of the process.
The application does include a feasibility.
Yeah.
Study for public utilities.
So.
Right.
It seems like some of those things would be really relevant in your decision making.
They're called the master plan. And we've got a roads, we've got a sewer, we've got a recreation, we've got bicycle trails. All those are in the master plan. And so I'm going to ask Tyler over here if he'll make sure in the record that we can make public that there is a link to the master plan so you can see. We reviewed the sewage master plan about 2 years ago, and it needs to be, we need to spend some money in about 10 years. Okay, and so that's taken into account by the staff when it comes time for this. And right now, there's not a problem with the sewer. There's not a problem with the water. You know that. We've got a lot more water than you. We've got more water than anybody in the world, just about. So, yes, the master plan is where it's all about. We follow the master plan as much as we can, unless we see it. There's a problem, and then we go to public hearing.
So my parting shot is, it would be really nice if Providence City would step up the game with their website, because I got more information texted to me, links sent to me, from other people who I don't know whether it's reputable or not, but there was like almost nothing on Providence City's website. And I'm sitting in the back of the room trying to get, Michael's maps. I can't see him from back. So it'd be nice if all of that information was provided there so we could actually be a little more informed in these meetings and processes. So just a parting shot.
Make a note of that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, we need to wrap up. I have 2 people left to speak, and then we're going to go to that and then stop. Annie Van Leeuwen.
Hi.
Thank you for that.
I'm a better writer than I'm a speaker, so I probably would have started rambling. Anyways, I live on 480 West. I live directly next to this spot. This will be my next door neighbor. The people that were sitting with me too, she's across the street from us, and this will also be her next door neighbor. I was kind of saying if anyone who was right next to it was going to speak, and then I realized I don't think anyone is, even though it affects everyone. But I mean, we will definitely be feeling this. This construction will be 10 yards from my house. I'm not mad about this or anything, and I do understand. I understand, like, buying property, why people invest, why they buy land, why they want to make money. Like, that makes sense. Who doesn't want to make money? That's your job. My thing is, I think Dan was being generous with the 300,000 when he said they'd be 300,000. I'm a real estate agent. Assuming these aren't 1 bedrooms, which they look like they'd be more 2, 3, they're gonna be in the range of 350, 360. So these people who want to buy affordable homes, they're not going to be the ones buying them, and I would love for them to be the ones. They're not going to be. I don't know what needs to be done there. Unfortunately, that's what's going on right now with interest rates, everything. So I do think affordable housing, I don't get what the state's doing, but I think that needs to be interpreted for each city differently and responsibly. So I do I can't remember who was saying it should be closer to public transportation, where they can go get to the highway, because it's affordable housing. Sometimes not all these people have cars.
This isn't really designated as affordable housing, because just like what you saw, they're going to.
Okay.
They're not coming in as that. There's no special act program to qualify under for that.
I got it. I'm just saying
but they're going to be multi-family.
But I'm just saying the mixed use keeps getting aimed at mixed uses or mixed high density is more affordable. That's why the state saying we need to do that as opposed to single families, which are less affordable. I'm just saying it's probably gonna be the same people buying the single family homes as the high density, because you're gonna get a lot of investors come in and rent them out, and they do get rented out a lot. I see them on KSL all the time for quite a bit of money, and it kind of makes me sick. So I know that's gonna happen, and I'm not even opposed to like maybe some townhouses in here. Just like looking at the plans specifically across the street from us, the Smileys, they don't have a fence or anything. And my child goes and plays in their backyard. At least according to these plans, there's gonna be like a parking lot behind their house. I don't know. I looked at them extensively. I don't know if I read that wrong. I don't know if they're putting a fence or what is happening. I hope a fence is going there.
Those are all things that would come.
Okay, but yeah, so if that's zoned, as opposed to like a single family house, they could have a backyard against it. Or I just think there could be things to be just even to change this. Like maybe, I know they're putting a park and I know you want that more for the people. Could the park maybe serve as a buffer between the house? I just think all of this could be redone. And, you know, we've talked to people that said, you know, I think the single family homes could even go around existing. Because I think when we bought ours, I don't know when it was changed to mixed use. Was that for you, Joe?
It was, yeah, back when master plan was up.
Okay, and you know, okay, and I bought before that, so I don't know what it was.
It was probably just agriculture.
Okay, so.
Because it's in the county.
So we didn't buy knowing what it could potentially be, so I don't think, I understand when they say, oh, well, it could be mixed use, so this is actually less. It wasn't mixed use when we bought it, so people weren't banking on like, does that make sense that, hey, we could do it a lot worse if we did mixed use, so we're kind of doing you a favor doing high density. I don't necessarily see that as different because we didn't buy that knowing that was going to be mixed use.
Well, it's just, you know, just to stress that. I mean, as you come into the valley, I mean, you look at this, so much agriculture, and it's being developed. I mean, almost everywhere you go, agricultural land as the city grows and expands.
And I do think it should be just responsibly. Absolutely, I do see the need. I just don't necessarily think, or not even. And I do know that if that's eventually going to be commercial, at what point do you just go from single family to commercial? I thought there needs to be a buffer. I totally agree. But I don't like our neighborhood necessarily serving as a buffer because when we bought our home, we didn't know that. I think if the development has a buffer of single family homes, they could at least be aware of what they are buying their house next to. So if you have single family homes with, you know, high density, then they know, hey, I'm buying a house next to high density and I'm fully aware of what I'm buying.
Well, and that's how this whole process goes. It was agriculture. Then it was looked at during the master plan development. These parcels may come into Providence. So they, on their master plan, they weren't a part of it then. They're still not a part of it. But now it's come to be annexed in to Providence. So there you have a public hearing for those, and now you have a public hearing for the zoning that will come. So that's the evolution of how that goes. So okay.
Yes, I just think ideally I would love for them to all be single homes, and if that's not going to happen, then I would love for the development to be a little more responsible, maybe serve as more of a buffer with single family homes. So I know you said that how they have it on that map, even though it says it can change. I don't know if that's on the plans.
That's what they're requesting.
Okay, so I'm saying if it could be more responsibly done with maybe the bottom half more at high density at minimum.
All you have to do is turn around and convince all those people
that
you'd like it to be, you would like it to be there. Okay.
I mean, at minimum, I wouldn't like that, but I would love at least a more responsible thing. And then what I'm just asking is, when I heard last time, what he was talking about at that meeting, they said they rely heavily on you guys. That's what they said. The city council, when I watched that last meeting, they said they almost, to me, it made it seem like whatever you guys decide is what they do. They said we rely heavily. I don't know if they were just blowing smoke so that people would stop talking at that meeting, like get to the next one. But I just sure hope people's minds aren't made up and that they truly take everything into consideration. And if they do, then I will be happy. But I do get the feeling when talking to certain things that things are already made up, and that to me is what seems like there.
I know from this commission group here, it is
not from you guys.
There's a lot, and I don't even know on the other side, but that's political and that's campaign and politics and elections.
And that's why I want to just everyone gets a fair shot. And thank you so much for doing all this.
Thank you very much. Last speaker, Pat Reading, please. And then we will close the
people.
Yeah, I signed it. I signed it.
Is it on the back page that she signed it?
My cat reading, and Tom.
On the back, yeah.
I know you're well versed in writing and reading, but your name doesn't, we can't hardly read your name. It's nice to have you here. Oh, did Tom do it?
He wrote it.
Good guy.
My cat reading. I had a conversation with the mayor. I didn't vote for her. But she said to me they said this was all coming in, that's in there now, and it was much more dense than I ever thought it would be. She says, well, we need both things. We've got to have both. Well, I say enough is enough. There's been enough density built along here that we don't need any more down along there. And I'm worried about the children and the schools. The churches are affected. And I really am opposed to this zoning annexation and zoning because it's not fair. It's not fair to the people who have bought homes here. And we are negatively affected by this. I say let's go up by the mayor's house and build those into that hill. How would she like it? Anyway, that's what I'm
Okay, you got a minute.
I love it. Well, there's a phrase, building they will come. 7th South, 5th South, access to that annexation, it's not there. And it's still in limbo.
I don't want to see it.
I just recommend, well, I say amen really hard to the Millers and Julia Lyman. They said it perfectly. They keep it a single family. You know, if they annex it, but get the infrastructure, the roads, and it's maybe the south will be finished. And you know what it's like. Mrs. Thompson about got hit last Sunday on 5th South, and kids coming down the street already. And so if 7th South is still in limbo because there's private land and then it stops, that's what's going to happen. It's just not there yet. And if they go ahead and what said, if they put that in, and that's what Jeff said, of course, it's just not there. We're not ready for it. We could probably handle single family, but we still need the road even for that.
They'll come in as the development comes. Thank you, family. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. Okay. This is what I'm going to say. This is what I'm going to say. If there is somebody that would like to speak, if you have something to say that's different than what hasn't already been said, then I will give you 1 minute, and then we got to wrap up. So I see 1, 2, 3. We're going to stop at 3 for right now. So Brother DeBruin, the gentleman in the back, and this gentleman right here. I'm sorry, what? Okay.
Okay, Nephi DeBruin. I live on 480 West. I wasn't going to say anything, but as you were speaking, you mentioned that studies will be done for high density. That's fine. As I have observed, I've lived in Providence now going on 4 years, and the amount of traffic from these high density housing on 485 Garden Drive it's crazy. On our street, 480 West, has been said, we have so many little kids, probably under the age of 7 years old. And you put that high density housing in there, 480 West and Garden Drive aren't wide enough, big enough to handle the extra traffic. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next.
Thank you. State your name. Jason Holmes. I'm also a real estate broker and developer. Live in the subdivision. I've lived in our home with our family 11 years. We'll just echo most of what's said already about the one or the R112. Every city's different. But, density. Couple concerns. When I talked to the developer a couple years ago when it was purchased, my understanding, and maybe it's changed, they were going to be purely 100% rentals. Now I know that can't be dictated by the city. I'm very pro home ownership. I encourage people to be home ownership oriented. Everyone needs a place to live, rent, whatever. I think it makes a big difference whether we're talking about these as homeowners or renters, not to devalue people, right? But that's the transient that we're talking about, a lot of people. I'm a purist at heart with real estate, highest and best use. I teach real estate licensing classes at the real estate school. First lesson we teach is highest and best use of the land. And usually that mirrors what's around it. We have quarter and third acre lots. Providence City was very forward thinking a few years ago. At the time, I was not in favor. I'm very much in favor of it now with the ADUs. I don't know exactly what it's called here, but ADUs, the state is very pro ADU. I do cause some hesitation on the state fear mongering. I've read the bills. I'm fairly versed on those. They're not going to come down. They can do things, but that's a silly reason to dictate what the city would do in fear of being penalized by the state is to vote major developments in or not. That's ridiculous. And I think we could do better than that as a community and as a city council, which I know you're not in the city council. The last point I want to say is zoning is the law. As any developer states, what is zoned is the law. So right now we all live in single family homes. We could all put on ADU attached or detached as long as we can provide parking. 30, in my approximations, counting in the surrounding neighborhood, 10 acres takes up about 30 to 35 homes. If this gets approved as mixed use, you indicated at the starting with your remarks that the zoning would be, the density could be up to 33 units per acre. So
that's what the original thing for the master plan.
Right. So we're all being told that it could be this, but if it's zoned multifamily, it really could be 330
Not
units.
We're not looking at that.
Nobody's actually said that. So I just wanted
the
to
application is for R1, R12, and R1.
And the application was difficult to find.
Yeah.
So, and there's not even a copy here. In fact, it's kind of a joke. So I'd be very critical of that because as developers, as a developer myself, 330 units is what I feel we are really looking at, not 81, whatever. So I think that needs to be defined.
Thank you, Jason. I appreciate it. I've got to limit the time here. So please, can you tell me your name?
Steve Simmons.
Steve Simmons. I'm looking for Kendall Pace. Is he here?
He's out of state.
He's likely online.
He's out of state.
Oh, so he's via Zoom?
Yeah, I think he's on Zoom.
I know he emails his comment in, but
Yes.
Oh, yeah, he
did. But is he on? Okay, so we may read that in. Please, if it's something new, tell me. I mean, I'm way over. I don't want to just say it's enough, it's over. Please.
It's new. My name is Ellie Hansen, and I've lived on Meadow Lane for the last 20 years. I am a housing and financial counselor. I understand the affordability housing problem in Utah. I deal with this every single day. As a professional, what's recommended for affordable housing is 30% of your gross monthly income. The area median income for Cache County as of 2021 was $65,670. You multiply that by 30%, the affordable mortgage payment is $1,600. So from everything that we've said here, these multifamily homes will not be considered affordable housing and should not be approved based on that recommendation. So I support single family homes that are affordable for our residents based on their current income, and this is not it.
Thank you very much. I didn't know who you were. I just had my magnifying glasses on. This would be on. Sorry. Thank you.
Steve Simmons. I live in Cache County, and I speak also for Howard Creed, who lives in Cache County. We share property borders with the development. Michael, you made a comment about possible future development on 2100 South. I would remind you that the only reason Mayor Drew and the city was not found in contempt of court was he kept insisting that 700 South was not a half road. It was a full road as big as it ever needed to be. No one from the city has ever offered to buy the land from me because I own the big chunk of 2100 South next to your 700 South. And the city has been told repeatedly, and so I'll state it here for everyone, the judge in the ruling said that Providence City has no right, claim, or interest to any portion of 2100 South, period.
That's in the Millville. What I was
No,
saying, what I said
I'm in
before-
the county, not Millville.
The property, the road that would go here is what we would call, I guess, the 700.
700 South is the road that comes from the.
Yes, the road at the bottom. And this is the road that you're talking about that goes up further.
I'm talking about the road that I own that's in front of my house, built by my father. It's called 2100 South, Cache County.
Yes.
Okay, and it's not going to get widened unless something really significant happens from the city, because right now you have no claim to it, and for you to even make the statement you made earlier,
Let me
could be
clarify.
construed as contempt of court.
And let me clarify that so it makes you happy, okay? And clarifies for everybody, because I didn't want to mislead you. What I'm talking about is the road that is in the development. It's not the road that's outside of it that's yours, okay? It's the road, the south road that would be a part of the development.
You have no room to widen it unless you take out the Smith's home and the other
No,
homes that are on the
we're not-
north side of that road.
We're not widening your road that's here. This road is within the 10-acre parcel, okay? It's a completely new road, okay? That's what I was saying.
All
So if
right.
there was misinterpretation, I apologize
You need
for
to
that.
keep in mind that your access to this development from 700 South Providence is what it is now. And to anticipate widening it to handle more traffic would constitute contempt of court. Okay?
If I misled you that we were widening that existing road, that is not the case. What I
Okay.
meant is the road, the south road of the development. So thank you for clarifying that, bringing that up to clarify. I'm sorry?
That road doesn't connect up to 200 West, correct? It wraps around.
It does not, yeah. It does not.
Would be access directly then to 200 West, like from that road, correct?
But it is listed in the application.
It is.
Okay. Goes up to 330 West.
It goes up to 330 West.
Right.
It's
Right.
one of the same problems.
Yeah, okay? And that's just if, in that development, if that was to go forward. Okay?
So if there was an emergency, how would our responders be able to get in on a one-way road?
Well, first of all, the two roads that come into this 10 acres, the two roads that would come into this 10 acres are 560 is Garden Drive and 480.
480 is an offshoot from Garden Drive. So it's just one road.
It's off of Meadow Lane. Okay?
On Garden Drive.
Yes, that's correct. That's the road in. Absolutely.
There's one way in Garden Drive.
So there's one way into all of that subdivision in Garden Drive, except 500 South. Yes, but into that development, yes. Okay? Okay. Did I get to everybody that I said we would? Are you new?
Yeah, new.
Okay, you got a minute, buddy.
Got it.
Thank you.
Okay, Sage Fury, I live on 500 South, Providence. Grew up in Providence, moved to Logan, moved back to Providence. Write down a couple addresses for me. So I work in law enforcement, and I've been on the road. Currently, I'm in the jail. And earlier you said there's no data. Well, I went to
Excuse me, what did I say no data to?
no data on crime.
No, I said we do have data.
Oh, excuse me.
The Providence City.
The data isn't there on increased crime. You were correct. You were probably correct at this point.
Of the calls and so forth.
and all of that. That's
Correct.
what's tracked and provided.
Correct, okay. I want you to write down a couple addresses throughout the valley. In Logan, 1400 north to 1800 north, 400 west in the blocks of 400 west to 600 west. Those are all multifamily homes. Golf course road to River Parkway or River Walk Parkway. Okay. Dangerous neighborhood now. Beautiful place. 15 years ago, when I was golfing over there, great place. Now you got gangs in there. 630 North Smithfield, multi-family homes. I just want you to look at the depreciation of the value of the area, the lack of upkeep of each of these apartments or townhomes or rent, you know, whatever they are, rentees, leasees. 1400, okay, so let's see, this one's in North Logan, 1400 north to 1800 north on 400 east. Those are about 15, 20 years old. I invite you guys all to take a drive through those areas and see. Some of them are brand new to the ones that are 15 years old. That some of these homes I've been in. Okay, I hate to say it. I've dug through trash, looking through looking through all their stuff for drugs, gang activity, all that stuff. And then one other place, well, I won't mention it, but it's in Hiram. And I don't want to dog on our neighbors in Hiram, but I'm obviously against this because, in my opinion, we in law enforcement, apartments bring problems, and townhomes can bring problems when they're being rented and they're not owned by their own people. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Could we request you explain to the attendees how law enforcement in Providence works? I was enlightened at a recent city council meeting.
Okay, I don't know that I can do that now. Okay, we've wasted too much time.
Do I get to comment?
Is that
That's Kendall Pace.
okay? Kendall, do you want to make a comment and your email submitted as in the public record, or do you want us to read your email and have no comment? What would you prefer?
Well, I didn't know I was going to give it a choice of either or. I would prefer to say something different than everybody else has said so far, and also have my email as part of the record.
Let's go with this. Let's go with, because of your email will be made a part of public record. As soon as that can be posted, everybody here can see it. So let's give you a few minutes to speak. 3 minutes, please.
Yeah, first of all, nobody's disparaging the folks that are buying these apartments or condos, and you tried to allude to that at the beginning, and that's not true. None of us are saying that. Those are good folks, good people. I could go around and make friends with any of them. But it's been my experience with apartments over time, and it's usually a short time where you start having them turn into investment properties, and then they start deteriorating fairly quickly. And in my experience, that's 5 years or less where you start, and then you start seeing the high crime rates and things like that starting to increase even more. But my concern is, and I was listening to you speak earlier, Mr. Chairperson, it sounds like you're trying to tell us that we need to talk to the city council because that's the place that this decision is going to be finally made. And I agree, they're going to vote on your recommendation, but the city council, including the mayor, advised all of us to talk at this public hearing and make our voice heard, because we are addressing a jury of our peers, as they put it, and they will listen to us, and they will normally follow those wishes of the residents. I urge you to follow the wishes of the residents. We don't want multifamily in there. We want residential, and that's developers already suggested R112, and that's what we recommend that this be zoned for. And that's less than 3 minutes. You can still put that in the public record.
Yep. Thank you, Kendall. I appreciate that. All right. We are going to close the public hearing portion of the meeting. Thank you for everybody's comments. And I would encourage you for a couple of things. Does everybody know what's going to happen next? Yes. So we're going to close this public hearing, and we're going to move to the next public hearing. And if there's comments, we'll do with that. And then we will close the public hearing, and then the Planning Commission will go into our legislative action items, which we will deal with talking about what we're going to do here. You will talk during the legislative action where you talk with us. So, okay. And if anybody wants to stay, you're welcome to. And then at that, when we do the legislative action, that's when we will look to vote. Okay. So, with that being said, we have closed the public hearing for item number 1.
Thank you for coming, everybody. For those of you that are still here, we want you to know that we appreciate you coming and sharing with us. And
don't forget to vote. Don't forget to volunteer, serve on the planning commission, and vote to run for city council. All right, let's move on to item number 2. Item number 2 of the public hearing. The City Planning Commission will take comments and questions regarding an amendment to the Providence City Code dealing with floodplain management and regulations. Do we have anybody here to address any comments for the floodplain management and regulation code amendment? Tyler, do we have anybody that submitted anything?
I have not seen anything regarding this item.
Okay. Last call for any comments. Okay, we're going to close the public hearing comment portion of item number 2. So the public hearings are closed. Do we need to take a break, or is everybody okay? Everybody? Huh? Okay. We will move on now to our legislative action item, item number 3, Providence 10 LLZ zone request. The Providence City Planning Commission will review, discuss, and may make a recommendation to the City Council regarding a request from Providence 10 LLC to zone parcel 02-117-0022 to RM12 and R112. So I would invite Scarlett to come up and give us an overview of what she's got for the application. And then after that, we have the developer with us, Michael. I got it. Jewel. Michael Jewell. So, thank you, Scarlett.
Okay. Kind of wish they would have stayed for this part. We'll tell it. I will. Not that it's anything earth shattering that you don't already know, but it does go over the code that we have to look at. One of the things that I do, that's not in the staff report, but that I do want to make clear, we can rely on the area that Michael showed when I put the boxes and said, is this where you're talking for single family for R112, and is this where you're talking for RM12? You can rely on that, but that plan that's been submitted has not been vetted. It has not been reviewed. We as staff have no idea if that plan is doable. And I think that's where some of this miscommunication is happening when developers come in and people want to see what they're doing, which I understand why they want to see what they're doing, and they show them a schematic of what they might do or what they would hope to do. That has not been reviewed for code. So this report does not talk to the design of that development. It talks to the two spaces being zoned. those roads, at least one of them, the Garden Drive, we know that'll have to go through the way it is. The other one probably is a good fit too. But as far as everything else, that plan is very subject to change.
Okay, so you said that, let me get this straight. You said that there is a definitive boundary between the requested RM12 or RM112 and the R112. That's a give. That's
Well, when you get done, there might be a definitive boundary. If it ends up all being zoned one thing, then that's different.
but besides that, it's a typical zone request, and there are no plans.
There have been no plans that have been reviewed to see if they meet our current codes. And part of the reason why that doesn't happen is because until we know what zone to review to, we can't review. So when people say, well, they've already made up their minds, that really isn't the case. We know you haven't made up your mind, and even if we thought you might have, we're not going to run that risk, or the developer's time or the public's time of going through and reviewing a full-on plan to make sure it meets a zone if we don't even know if that zone exists yet in that spot. And that's the place we're at now. So you can rely on the fact that the box that says R112, not exact measurements, but really close, will be R112, if that's what you choose to recommend and that's what the council chooses to do. But you can't rely on the design of those houses necessarily.
I just stop you for a second. I don't know if any of us have seen this. I haven't.
Right, the zone request was not in the agenda where it normally is. So we have not.
That was not part of the zone, that was.
The annexation application.
That was not part of the annexation application. Or no, that was
So
not
we
part
have
of it.
the zone analysis.
Yeah.
But
Right.
where is the request from the developer? We usually have a copy of that too.
Well,
Is that this?
Yes.
No.
No.
That's
Yeah,
the
it was in the
analysis.
annexation packet.
We don't have that. We weren't
I
given
haven't
that.
seen that.
We didn't get this till like Tuesday or something like that.
No,
Did
but
it come yesterday?
I didn't see it.
No, that one,
We don't
that
have
one I
that.
gave you.
Right, this one you gave me. Yeah.
Well, except that we usually do have access to the application,
Yes.
right? We haven't gotten
Which
that.
is what's on here now.
That's true, isn't it?
This is the analysis. There's usually a separate application, right?
There usually is, well, part of the
Yeah,
problem
I'm
was this was in the annexation application. And we're separating out the zoning portion of the annexation application.
So the
Is that
city
on the
council
city
got that.
council's agenda then?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So has the development company come to the city and requested the annexation? Is that how it went?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, they did. And, the city does have the ability to tell the development company right off the bat that they're not ready to consider that area for annexation. Or they could say, we will look at it for further review, which is what we're doing now. And that's when we start the process of doing the public hearing for the request, this zone that's not consistent with the general plan. So that's why we're having a zone hearing on it. City council will hold a public hearing for the annexation, and they will talk about the zone assignment too. So they will hold a public hearing, but not specific just to zoning. They'll hold a public hearing on we're going to annex or we're not going to annex, but they will hold another public hearing.
Can you clarify for us the order in which that happens? So do we have to approve as a city? Do we have to approve the zone request first or the annexation request first or as
The
a whole
zone
package?
request. The zone request, you get to recommend on. You don't have to approve it first. It will be approved concurrently with the annexation. It'll be assigned. And so, but first they apply or petition for annexation. And as part of that petition, they have to tell us some of the things that they want. And they said they put their application together just as we were changing names on the zoning titles. So their application says SFT/MFM. and which converts now to R112 and RM12. And so when we establish a zone, and that's why I think people thought it was kind of, they could just say, well, we're going to do some of each, but we're not. We're going to decide how much of each, or if it's just one, or if it's not even. That's what the council will end up deciding ultimately. I just want people to know that, and I think that that's why there's often people think that the developer didn't do what he told us he was going to, because oftentimes they come in with a conceptual idea of what would work in that type of a zone, but that doesn't mean that it meets our ordinance. And so I just want to make it really clear that the buildings as shown on there may not end up being placed quite like they're shown.
And so they don't have to do that two separate parcels. This is the standard thing to request two separate zones?
Yeah, you can, yeah. Because then as part of the subdivision process, then they'll subdivide it out into the separate lots and parcels and all that kind of stuff.
But what you are saying is that these lines are drawn for the R112 and the RM12. Those lines are what they're requesting. It's what they're requesting that we recommend to the city council.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't want to leave it unclear.
Yeah.
So that, you know, that it's not a small little corner and the rest is.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so on our staff report, we look at that we looked at Utah code, and I wish that sometimes the cities could override Utah code, but if the state legislature did anything this year, they said cities, we mean business. And so I think the public needs to make their voices heard at the state level. If they want to see different type of laws that the cities have to live to, they need to make their voices heard at the state level. Code now allows the legislative body, which is the city council in Providence City, to divide the community into zoning districts. It says that the legislative body shall assign a land use zone or a variety thereof to territory annexed into the municipality at the time the property is annexed. That doesn't say we have to give them a specific zone, but we do have to, I mean, like the state code's not saying you got to bring it in as the ag and then do something later with it. We can bring it in at what you and the city council deem best, but we do have to assign something to it. We just can't have it come in and remain under the county zoning. It's got to have our zone on it. The planning commission needs to review and make recommendations to the city council. Before making a recommendation, the planning commission holds a public hearing, and then we look at our city code, and Providence City Code has established different zoning districts. We also consider the general plan and current and anticipated development in the immediately surrounding areas when we look and review the application. And I know that this is one thing that I think it's hard for people to understand and remember, and we are supposed to listen to the public and take the current public into account. But it is very clear in the state code that you are supposed to